Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Brandon.
And we're here to tell you how we felt about Despicable Me 2. Despicable Me 2, of course, the sequel to Despicable Me. Yes, indeed. And in this one, Gru is still taking care of his adopted daughters from the first film. And he is recruited via kidnapping to be a part of the Anti-Villain League and help find a supervillain that is developing a weapon to take over the world with, and he has to work incognito at a shopping mall, and then it becomes, just like the first film, a lot more about the family dynamic with Gru and his daughters and a possible love interest than it even has to do with the whole taking over the world plot. And then those two things come together very much by the end. This is a character who is completely motivated by his family and by his selfish desires, just as they were when he was a supervillain, but now as a family man, which is something I really enjoy. This movie, Brandon, made me feel like becoming a supervillain so my kid thinks I'm more fun. One of the things I really, really enjoyed about this is how, and I had this with the first one too, is how likable Gru is, even though he's not changed too terribly much. One of the things these movies really have going for them is that this guy has turned away from his supervillain ways, but only insofar as he's, as I said earlier, more about being a family man and taking care of these girls now than he is about trying to take over the world. And in fact, he's done with taking over the world. But what's fun is that he's not too changed. He's not too neutered, and that's one of the things I really like about him. And something I was a little bit worried about with a sequel to that he would be way too neutered, and that it just wouldn't be fun anymore, and that the title would no longer apply. And I feel like it still, at least to some degree, does. I think Despicable Me 2 is a bit of a lame title. I kind of wish they had come up with something else for it, but for the sake of sales tickets, it's understandable. The film did great opening weekend. We're seeing it a couple days late, and so I'm sure people loved the first one. That helped people get into the movie theater a little bit. But anyway, he's so much fun with his kids, and you watch this and you're like, man, I wish my dad was like that, and so this is a funnier film than it is a real thought-provoking film. Everything makes sense and comes together at the end, but it's a lot more, in my opinion, about the humor than it is about the emotional resonance with the characters. I do feel like a little bit more could have been done with Gru and his antagonist in the film, and doing a little bit more comparison contrast with them. I felt like that was a bit shallower than it needed to be, and I think even a little bit more could have been done with him and his love interest. Though I was very surprised that I actually ended up liking her, given how much of a flake she is at the beginning, and given how extremely over the top that character is. I thought that was going to lose me entirely, but it totally didn't. Yeah, not brilliant, but a really, really fun film, and one of the funniest things I've seen in a while. There's a scene toward the end that made me laugh until I cried. Anyway, I clearly am feeling it and recommending that people go see it.
Okay.
Good, Brandon.
This film, for me, made me feel like I was watching a classic tale of suspense and intrigue. As you can see, minion.
All right.
My minion up here in the corner. Yes, this film did not disappoint me. I just flipped that over there. It did not disappoint me. In fact, I was pleasantly surprised by this film. I had lower expectations, partly from talking to Captain over here. I was worried. No, I was worried about this, and I just didn't know how it was going to turn out. But there were lots of lighthearted moments that really got me going and made me laugh, and I ended up liking the love interest a lot as well. Character was way over the top, but I think it worked. I think it worked well for her, and the dynamic was it was good, and I I very much enjoyed that. what else about this? There was plenty of gadgetry, just like in the first one, and it all came together very well. I liked the villain. I liked the family plot story a lot. How the character is he's driven by his family and motivations. I did identify with the three children as being a person who doesn't know their dad. I can understand where they're coming from. So this was interesting for me. You bring that point up, and then I'm thinking to myself, well, I don't know my dad, so I can understand where they're coming from. Things, don't get me wrong, I had a great family life growing up. I enjoy the family I do know. So, but these things. Anyway, it was a great movie. I recommend it. My thing fell on the floor here, so I recommend this to anyone. Indeed, you warned me about that.
Yeah, that's all right.
I recommend it to our audience. I'd say if you get the chance, go see it in the theater. It was great on the big screen.
So we're clearly completely in agreement on this one.
Absolutely.
And it sounds like we enjoyed it for a lot of the same reasons.
And I was laughing just as hard at that scene.
At the end. And about the Minions, one of the things that I was not looking forward to was ridiculous and immense amounts of screen time with them that I was afraid would overtake the plot. Because the first one bordered on that in a couple places, and then that seemed to be the thing that made it popular. Were those Minions. And of course we've seen them in commercials, we've seen them all over the place now, and the first half of the film I felt like that was a problem. I felt like they were interrupting the narrative far too often. At first. This was not a problem by the end of the film. And if I were to watch the film again, I would no longer feel that way. And I'm saying that because one of the things this movie does really great is classic cartoon payoffs. You mentioned classic intrigue. I think even more so classic Saturday morning cartoon stuff.
I thought I was going to write that down, but then I was like, nah, I'm going to go this direction and talk about that later.
Toward the end, or rather at the start of the third act, there is a major plot point that features the Minions, and I was really glad that was there, because I kept wondering how in the world the film was going to justify the again, immense amount of screen time that they had. And then it does justify it.
It totally.
And it makes them funnier, and I was very impressed with that.
I like the classic, bit my tongue there, the classic payoffs that we get from this this comedic style. There was a lot of goofy cartoon stuff. I felt like it was, at the same time I really liked the movie, I felt it was a classic cartoon in that way. And I almost literally wrote that down. I was thinking about that very heavily.
A lot of Tex Avery in there, and yes. Again, the first film had a little bit of that. One thing I mentioned to you earlier as we were driving to the theater is that I was a little disappointed with the first one because I was expecting something a little closer to Spy vs. Spy.
Right.
And with all of the I've never gotten to talk about this movie before, so I'm mentioning this now. Where you had all the silhouettes in the advertising, and he's shaped like the Spy vs. Spy guys.
Right.
And I kept I kept thinking that that's what I was going to get going into that movie, and it really wasn't quite that. And yet there are elements of it, here and there. And I thought
not to the extent that you wanted.
No, but I thought, but knowing what I was getting into, I enjoyed this one more. And I'm going to say, I think I enjoyed this twice as much as the original.
I would actually say they're about even for me. I don't get me wrong, I immensely like this one. That means I just immensely like the first one as well. It was this one was a different direction for him though, for Gru, being in that as we get in the previews, he's not doing the villain thing anymore. So I wondered where they were going to take that. How are they going to do this? How are they going to get all these characters we saw from the first one, the Minions, Gru, the children? How are they going to bring them together into one tale? And I think they did really well with that. There
is a lot of formulaic and typical here, and yet it's not really a problem for this material. I did feel like it was a problem for the first one. I think maybe that's part of why I liked this one more. And that's having not seen the first one since it came out, so I might have different feelings about it if I watch it again. I've only seen the thing one time. But
me too.
Watching this one, I felt like all of the formulaic was entirely intentional, because you've got, with cartoons, but also also clearly with superhero tropes, and a lot more so with the first one. You've got a movie that is riffing hard, somewhat parroting and somewhat just using traditional superhero tropes. So you've got the bad guy that asks the hero to join him. You've got the bad guy kidnap my girlfriend plot. You've got all those things are in this movie,
right.
It didn't feel like it was pretending like it was the first time you've seen it. It was very tongue in cheek. It was you've been here before.
Especially,
sorry, go ahead.
Especially with the over the top antics of the villain. I so much enjoyed that when we got to see that. I was laughing really hard in my seat, and I'm sure I was annoying the guy next to me. He did not. I don't think he laughed once. He was with his wife and kid. It looked like. But the over the top antics of the villain and just everything, it was great.
What I appreciated with all of that superhero stuff, and I'm inevitably going to have to do these movies now on Superhero Rewind. When I did Dr. Horrible, I called it Supervillain Rewind. Mm-hmm. I'll do the same thing with this. And what we got here was at the same time as it is a very consummate superhero movie to a degree. Gru doesn't become a superhero, and I really appreciate that they didn't really go in that direction too far.
Right.
He does inevitably end up having to try to save the world, but it's entirely selfishly driven. He's not lost the thing that makes himself him, and it doesn't make him unsympathetic either. You know what I mean?
No, I really got behind this character.
What drives him is his love for these people, and he doesn't care about the rest of the world. He just cares about them, and I really appreciate that. Something I really wondered about in the first movie, and I had that in spades here, this is something Eric and I have talked about a little bit, is you've got an anti-villain league here. Where were they in the first movie?
See, and they almost touch on the fact that they should have been in this movie because the question that he asked.
Well, we were paying attention to you when you tried to steal the moon, but we didn't do anything about it.
He's like, we care. We don't care about this. We don't care about this. We don't care about this. But when you try to steal the moon, we're paying attention.
Yeah, but where were
they?
Yeah, that's so weird. And so you've got villains in this world, but where are the heroes? You can't have villains and not have heroes.
Right.
Because villains are the flip side of heroes. You wouldn't have a universe where people were calling people villains if you didn't also have heroes. It doesn't make any sense. A villain is a hero's journey archetype.
Right.
And to have people inside of a narrative calling themselves that is already kind of tongue-in-cheek anyway. Where are the heroes? So with the first movie, I thought that Gru was supposed to be a little bit closer to like a Bond villain or a mad scientist. Mm-hmm. But not necessarily a costume mad scientist, but then with the actual antagonist in this film, we're now down to costumed supervillains. And I won't give anything away about that guy because you should see him; he's hilarious. But
yes.
So we've got costumed supervillains now. Where are the superheroes? It seems like a superhero universe without superheroes. I don't like that. That's weird.
I would never have considered that. You make a valid point. I, however, was able to look. I can look past that.
Oh, sure. No, it's still a great movie.
Yeah, no. Just that's part of the difference between you and me, and why I like hearing your side of things. Is I didn't find that much of a. I don't know if you found that much of a problem, but like you mentioned
only
that
because of the first film.
Right.
To suddenly introduce them would have been strange because you would have also wondered where the heck all of the superheroes were in the first film.
Exactly.
Also, yeah. This is a place where they shot themselves in the foot the first time.
Right. I would agree with that. Something that it didn't really get me though, but I can see exactly where you're coming from. Where are the superheroes?
Where are they? Yeah, I don't know. It's just awkward. It's strange, but that's not a huge thing or anything. But I just thought I'd mention it. What else? I had one or two other things I wanted to bring up, and I'm trying to remember now what they were. We were talking about the love interest in this. One of the things I like about how they suddenly start liking each other, because it's that kind of stereotyped couple that doesn't get along, and then they see something in each other that they like, and they kind of fall for each other real fast. What you get here is a woman who should have been a supervillain, and I really like that. What they see in each other is that they actually have a lot more in common than even the audience would notice. Mm-hmm. But you get toward the the middle of the film, and it's like, yeah, she resolves her problems in exactly the same way he does, and she's into gadgets, and she likes shooting people with tasers, and
she has a line in there that kind of foreshadows that. She said, I shouldn't really say this, but kind of really liked it when you were a supervillain.
That's a great point.
And
she was already an admirer.
She was definitely an admirer of Gru, and it grew on Gru.
Yeah, sure.
And I definitely liked that dynamic. It may have been a classic fall for each other love story in that sense, but I think it worked here.
It's typical, but again, it's aware that it's typical, and that makes it okay for me.
Yes,
when a movie knows this, does it on purpose, and then often will use that to misdirect us. That's what's working. There are a number of little things that don't seem like setups that totally pay off in the third act. And I love it when movies... Excuse me, I love it when movies do things like that.
The security alarm.
Yeah,
that was a great payoff for me. I enjoyed that immensely.
And a lot of the stuff that's set up inside the mall and stuff like that. So anyway, all in all, this was quite good, and we're feeling it. Yeah. So thanks very much for watching our new movie review, and let us know what you thought of the film in the comments if you happen to see it. And next week we will review something else for you. I'm Captain Logan,
and I'm Brandon.
See you next time. Bye.